Here's one that is about some DIY work. Um, trousers, pants, trousers, pants. Rollerblading is all about the pants. Nowadays I see covered cuffs coming into vogue again, and I was thinking, why? Because I remember I have a memory when I was 14 and I started skating, bought my first Roches Majestic 12s. The first time we met older rollerbladers, I remember, you guys remember that baggy was the thing in 2001, and this older guy who was mentoring us, we were just 14-year-old little shits. We didn't know anything. We were just a bunch of little cheeky fucks, and we just loved rollerblading. And I remember I had moderately baggy trousers on, and I remember I was pulling it over my cuff, and he asked me like, why am I pulling it over the cuff? And I didn't really know why, but he said it looks way better and it's way more how to say it, smarter to have your trousers above your cuffs without covering the cuffs, for the reason that if you have your cuffs covered, you will just end up with very ragged, tattered trousers. So every time you miss, you will be just messing up your trousers right around the buckles. So since that day, I always had my buckles visible, even during times when it was more difficult. Because you remember the old days, sometimes we had very large pants, and even puffier skates weren't enough to contain them and hold them up. But I remember we tucked it before behind the tongue, and I recently just had a memory refresh. I just watched Heshes. It's hard to pronounce, Heshesins, and I just noticed that I would say 90 or 95% of the clips where people weren't covering their cuffs. I know it's a fashion choice and it's something personal, and fashion and style is very subjective. I personally, since that day that Sebastian, that older rollerblader guy, told me that probably it's just better to not cover your cuffs. I never really covered it. So this was the intro story. Now let's get into one idea I just want to share with people. This is not a very wide, not a very brief trouser, but I just can't really find anything that currently needs a string. So my idea was to share a very basic, very basic idea that requires very easy to access tools, any kind of cutting device, any scissors, snippers could do, that you could use to make a very precise cut, some lighters or matches, safety pins, and some kind of a plastic synthetic string. You could use new or old shoelaces. So if keeping, because nowadays cuffing is really a thing, but I don't really understand it. I don't really see it, how it's I don't know, I just don't really vibe with cuffing, tucking. I guess it's fine, but cuffing. So most trousers have this kind of hem at the bottom, and sometimes it's narrow, sometimes it's much wider. So here's one, just one quick and easy way to, because you could do it in two ways. I'm gonna do one first. You could cut. It doesn't need to be some kind of very large hole, just as large as this safety pin is gonna fit. It's very important to get some kind of synthetic string. Could be shoelace, could be whatever string that you salvage from another old clothing item. You need to fix the end, mount it a little bit. Don't retouch it immediately. Wait about 3 to 5 seconds, and you shouldn't really keep your hands on. Just quickly put a spin on it. You could also do this to most shoelaces if they start wearing apart at the ends. Next thing is you stick the safety pin through. Well, sometimes this hardens and it's really hard to push it through. So you see, I melted it. Just to push it through, we could reseal it again. This is just one way of doing it. I hope this is gonna work. It's a bit tight. I mean, this safety pin is quite large, but I'm gonna do it in real time. Probably rent in the meantime, because this takes a while and takes some concentration. It's a bit annoying when it gets stuck, or the safety pin becomes unlocked when it's in the tube of the hem. And you might be wondering, why am I doing this video? My learned profession is I make clothes. I'm not really a fashion guy, but I really like to design clothes, make custom clothes, make custom outfits. This is where it gets difficult, where you get the intersection. I probably should have used a smaller safety pin. I have a bunch of sizes. Camera is always in the way, so sometimes I just need to stand here on the side, because I also want it to be visible, so I'm not just doing it off camera. Hold it here, try to pull in more string. So you have some left, so you could tie them. It's better to leave more than less, because if you leave less and you end up with less, then you need to redo it. But if you leave it longer, you could always make it shorter and close it with the lighter. This is one way to tame the width of your trousers. You could put these not sure what these are called, these plastic sliders hold this together, but I don't really have I don't really like to use plastic parts for rollerblading gear because if it, I don't know, there's just too much impacts and forces in play when you rollerblade, and I just don't really want any plastic part or ball on my clothing that might get pushed against my bones and do some damage. So this is a very punk, very easy way that requires that doesn't really require any special tools. Probably things that you could find in your own home. This is just one way to keep your trousers above your cuffs without tucking. If you can do some stitching, it's more, this is the most punk and basic way that I wanted to show. I'm not gonna get into further in detail into other methods. You could snip this seam here. I'm not gonna do it, and do the same thing. Pull through the safety pin. Do the same thing, and get the desired girth. Tie it or stitch it or mount it together. Put it back in. Pull it aside, either with machine or by hand. Repair this stitch, the seam that you just got into. Also, there are a few other ways it velcros. Bunch of other. Not sure. These are the two that I came up with. Is the string with the safety pin, or you could use some kind of micro patches if you could stitch them onto your trousers and onto your. Oh, probably you don't really have to stitch it onto your liner, but you could use some kind of two-sided sticky tape and stick the velcro onto your skate and onto your cuff, maybe. So yeah, this was the DIY video about keeping your trousers above your cuffs. Bye.